Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel. If you are duly subscribed, I will try and fill in the gaps that others who know us well will already know. But I want to tell you today the story about a very special mule called Tosca. Tosca came to us when she was quite poorly from a village up in the mountains called Imlil in May of last year. It may have been April last year, April the 3rd, she came to us. And her owner, who was quite a young man, had known Ellen Cochrane, our patron in the UK, a while and had asked for help because Tosca had become unwell. And Ellen was very much of the opinion that he was the responsible owner. It was a beautiful mule, and unusually she had been given a name. So Tosca came, and she was the most fabulous mule. We were all so fond of her. And when she was well, a few months later, we spoke to Ellen and we spoke to the owner, and it seemed absolutely the right thing to let her go back to her owner. And she was returned. Our young managers here took her back to Imlil, and she ran into her old home very happily. And then Ellen is visiting again following the pandemic. And she's been going up to Imlil and making inquiries before she went. She phoned Mohammed and asked him how Tosca was, and was told that Tosca was not well and that she was loose in the mountains because he had to buy a new mule to work with. Tosca wasn't well enough to work. Well, of course, Ellen was fairly horrified and got on to me, and we asked that Tosca be found, and of course we would take her back to retire at the refuge. I then got a message from Mohammed to tell me that he had had to sell Tosca in part exchange for a new mule, and that he wouldn't be able to recover Tosca until he had paid all the money he owed on the new mule. So of course, what did you expect me to do? I said, look, Mohammed, I will help pay your debt if we can get Tosca back. Oh, I've got a fly. I do apologise. It's getting warming up here a bit in Morocco. And then today I went up with Ayub and Simo to Imlil, determined to get Tosca back. And I took a bag full of money, would you believe it? Because I think I would have done whatever was necessary. We got up to Imlil. We went to Mohammed's house and was told he wasn't there. He was in a neighbouring town. So I asked Ayub to send him a message and tell him that we had the money for Tosca. And I said, I'm afraid to have to say this, I said, he'll be back if he thinks there's money. Then in the interim, we went and had a drink of coffee with a very helpful young man in the village who made inquiries on our behalf. And he told us, and we later had it ratified, that in fact Tosca was nowhere near Imlil. She was now in Agadir. She'd been sold on. So this story I was fed about Tosca wouldn't be released till he'd paid the debts was an absolute nonsense. She'd been sold on. I was livid, absolutely livid. We managed to make contact with the mule trader in Agadir that had ownership of Tosca, and we could have her back at the weekend if I paid him 10,000 dirhams. Now, folks, at the moment, mules are selling in Morocco between 3,000 dirhams and 6,000 dirhams, and that would be for a strong working mule. Tosca is old, and she's possibly pulling a truck round Agadir as we speak. I made it perfectly clear that we were not going to be exploited. I offered him 5, which I said was probably twice what Tosca would be worth on the open market. But no, they weren't budging. They wanted 10. So I left. I left in no uncertain terms. And I've spoken to several people since, and we have a plan. I'm not going to share it on Facebook at the moment or on YouTube for obvious reasons. But remember this, I was being exploited. Now, the King of Morocco, who's pretty amazing, and the government are really clamping down on corruption and exploitation. And therefore, I intend to have this matter dealt with through the proper channels. Can I just say a few words about the tourist industry? The pandemic appears to be over here and tourists are coming back. And my experience is that the tourists who are returning seem to be much more ethical and concerned about matters that really matter to the environment. And I think that's going to be quite a shock to some people, including many of the muleteers in places like Imlil. Because when I was up there this morning, the English will understand what I mean if I say Imlil was becoming a bit like Blackpool. It was becoming a bit of a tourist trap and, in my view, a bit tacky. And I'm sorry if that upsets some of the really good people in Imlil. But I think it is beholden on all of us, particularly us running the sort of refuge we do, to fight for the protection of these mules. Because historically what has happened is that a mule is worked in the mountains. At the moment it's very cold up there. They'll be walking through rivers, they get arthritis at quite a young age, and then they're sold on. And they're sold on to work in the cities where they lead a miserable life, pulling carts in heavy traffic till they drop. Now, something must be done. I cannot believe that that would be supported in Morocco by the people who really care. And there are many of them, I promise you, both at government level, within the royal family, within Moroccans themselves. And it's up to us to now come together and do something about this. So I hope that Tosca will be a beacon of light. I haven't given up hope on getting her back. I may not, but she will become an ambassador for the work we intend to do in the future. And to you amazing tourists who come here, please come to this wonderful country and these wonderful people. But don't be conned by those in the tourist industry who wish to exploit. And if you are going to be involved in any way with an animal, whether it be a pack animal such as a mule or with a camel, don't negotiate the price down. Talk to the owner about how they are fed, how they are cared for. And I can tell you from here, the price of food is going up all the time. So that's dealt with for now. I just want to tell you before I go that animals are still coming in thick and thin. Sorry, thick and fast. Many of them are very thin. And thank you to Moroccans who are able to save them, and some of you buy them. But of course, for every horse or mule that comes here, that's another £1,000 a year on our running costs, taking into account medical care, food and staffing. A donkey's maybe 800. And we are not going to turn these animals away, but we are growing. And I want those of you that support us to know that we have grown in a very businesslike way. We don't owe any money. We don't beg and borrow. We haven't had to buy food that we can't pay for or have the vet that we can't pay for. By managing what we do and planning what we do. And of course, I'm tired of saying this. Part of planning is being legal, is being registered, is being able to access the sort of providers that can collect donations for you, because you can produce your certificates, you can produce your registrations. I get so upset, and I know some of my colleagues here do, by people with the best of intentions that set up a refuge and think they're coming to Morocco to do good. They get into debt very quickly. They take on animals they can't cope with. thankfully, because of all of you, we have been able to take every animal that has crossed our threshold. And for that, we are very grateful. And we don't intend to give up. We plan to grow and get even better at what we're doing now. So please be with us. Subscribe to our channel. You can go onto our website. It's www.georgia.org. That's very easy. You can donate if you want to, but I'm not hanging out a begging bowl. We are coping, but my goodness me, we couldn't do it without the people who do support us. So again, thank you, God bless, and speak to you soon.